Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you guys are doing well today. We're going to be talking about another watch that is super special for us. This is a Vacheron Constantin 4963. This is a watch from the early 50s and is reminiscent of a watch that was really important to me when I started sort of getting into watch collecting and watches in general, and that is the Vacheron Constantin Toledo. So I'm actually going to obviously give you guys a close-up of this watch, talk through the watch itself, give you some specifications on it, and give you a little bit of history on it. And then I'll also talk about its connection to life on the wrist, which is a very important part of sort of the history of life on the wrist. As I do in all these videos, I'm going to flip perspectives so you can actually see a close-up of this watch. You can see it in the metal running, and hopefully you'll be able to see the charm in it, which is something that I really obviously love about this specific watch. I'll say at the beginning of the video, this watch is available on our store. So if you want to head over to lifeonthewrist.com/shop, you'll be able to find this Vacheron Constantin reference 4963 there. There are also some more pictures of this watch that you can take a look at. There's just some more opportunities for you to be able to see this watch. We also, as we do with every single one of our videos, have a corresponding article on our website. If you go to the editorial section, you'll see the article that corresponds with this specific video. So you can head over there if you'd like some more information about this specific watch. But without further ado, let me flip perspectives so you can take a look at this really beautiful vintage Vacheron Constantin. All right, welcome back to the video. Okay, so we are talking about this extremely beautiful Vacheron Constantin reference 4963. So I think the first thing I can sort of talk through, and you can see when I kind of give you an up close about this watch, is sort of the general aesthetics of this piece. So as you can see, it is a square, sort of softer square shaped case, and has an hours and minutes hand. So this would obviously fall into sort of the dress watch category if you were to sort of be a little bit more specific about where it fits in the grand scheme of sort of watch collecting. The watch itself is 18 karat yellow gold, and the case itself is 23.5 millimeters in diameter. So you're looking at a much smaller piece that's going to sit on your wrist. Obvious things about it: you have a really beautiful cream dial, and then a really interesting sort of stepped case. You can see pretty clearly if I give you sort of a side profile like this. But squared sort of case, and then if we turn it over here, you can see a really beautifully signed crown with the Vacheron Constantin logo. Simple gold snap case back, but again, I think the real differentiation about this piece is how the sort of case is sort of stepped. So to go a little bit more into detail about that, so what you can see is quite short lugs, but then you have this really nice sort of curved edge of the case, and obviously that applies to all of the different sides. It almost is as if you had a square watch, and then these additional sort of stepped pieces were added as the lugs. I think it's further extent, you can really see it where the sort of the curved edges of this piece don't really come together in the center of the watch here. You can see that little gap. And then on the other side, obviously, is where the crown sort of integrates into the piece. But yes, so 18 karat yellow gold watch. The reference 4963. This one dates to 1953. That's according to the serial number that's found on the inside of the watch, which begins with 520. You can see the watch has an hours hand and a minutes hand. Has Vacheron Constantin, this Vacheron Constantin Genève signature at 12 o'clock, 18 millimeters in lug width, and if you kind of look here, this is a genuine lizard strap, which I think goes really nicely, especially with the fact that this is sort of more of a dress piece. A big question that I always answer on these videos is sort of the movement, which is something that I find even more important when you're discussing these types of pieces. This is running on the caliber 1003, which is a manual wind movement from Vacheron Constantin. It was considered one of the most widely used and very well constructed manual wind movements from Vacheron Constantin in the 50s. And so it was almost like their a movement that was used quite frequently in their pieces. So that's kind of some of the specifications about this specific watch. I can put it on my wrist really quickly so you can see. Excuse me for 1 second. So with this piece on my wrist, excuse my additional cuff there, you can see it fits really, really beautifully on the wrist. It is almost like a perfect dress watch. If you're looking for something that slides under a cuff, this is the perfect piece for you. You know, you can't really go wrong with a vintage Vacheron Constantin for something like that. So that's sort of the basics about this watch. One thing I wanted to talk about before I sort of get into its connection with life on the wrist is sort of what makes this watch unique and why we found this specific piece. So if you hadn't noticed when I was sort of showing you the piece, and if you kind of look at the hands, you can see some discoloration in the yellow gold case. And it almost has turned into sort of a reddish hue. Let me make sure I can get a nice close-up of that. So, you know, you can see, okay, that's perfectly, you know, gold tone. But if you take a look at the side, you almost see this sort of bluey reddish hue on this specific piece. And I think in different lights you can sort of capture it nicely. But you can see heavily around the crown, a little bit of it on the crown itself, but really heavily on sort of the extensions of the lugs on the side there. Another place where you can see it is on the clasp. You can see a little bit of it on there. And then, like I said, on that hour's hand, there's also some of that. That change in color actually is just a reaction that gold has with you know, that it happens over time. And that's basically the oxidation of the gold that's used on this piece. I think it gives the watch a really cool look to it. A lot of the times people would think that that's maybe sort of like damage to the watch or something like that, but you can really see on the right side of this case some beautiful oxidation. Now, depending on what type of vintage watch collector you are, if you are someone who is looking for a pristine piece, maybe this isn't the piece for you. But if you're looking for something that has a little bit of character and has a really nice, unique sort of gold hue to it, with that red and blue oxidation on the right side of the case, this is definitely something you should consider. I think I've seen a ton of these watches in a lot of the, not this specific reference, but a lot of vintage watches that are gold that have oxidation at auctions, and I just think it looks absolutely phenomenal. So that's a little bit about the piece. What I want to do is sort of go into the reason why this piece is really important to us. So I mentioned the stepped case of this piece, and this is something that really reminded me of a watch, which is the Vacheron Constantin Toledo, which has a very similar case shape to this piece. I'm going to go into this book here. This is the Vacheron Constantin collection from 2016-2017, so it's a little bit older, but there's a watch that I wanted to draw your attention to, which is the Toledo. So as you can see here, this is the Vacheron Constantin Toledo, the modern iteration of this piece. This is oftentimes referred to as the Chocolatone by vintage watch collectors. And there are many different Toledos that were created. There is one that has a calendar and moon phase. There's a time-only piece that was created, but this is sort of the modern iteration of it. And so there's a nice kind of description here, but one of the things I wanted to draw your attention to was the stepped case. And you can almost imagine when you're looking at this specific picture, you can see the stepped case on the picture and sort of also see it in the watch itself, which I think is why really the design elements of it really drew me in towards looking at something like this. So this is really the connection here. And to go into further detail about why the Toledo is so important, that was really the first piece that I really fell in love with as a collector. I've covered this plenty of times, but there's a really cool kind of secrets of the manufacturer video that Vacheron Constantin created about the Toledo. And so really fell in love with that piece and sort of the history of the brand. And so this one really felt almost you know, as close to the Toledo as you could possibly get, and just had a little bit of a different flair with that beautiful oxidation and different case size and obviously different reference. One of the things I did want to go through is just to talk through some of the other pieces in this. So this watch, the 4963, has shown up in auction a couple of times. This is obviously a yellow gold piece, but there was actually a white gold version of this watch with a really beautiful diamond, basically where you see this, where you see the square around the dial of the watch. There's actually some diamonds that were laid on that sort of squared shape, and that one was sold at Antiquorum in the important modern and vintage timepieces in Hong Kong. So that was a white gold version. Then there's yellow gold, which is sort of what you're seeing here, and then there was a really cool one that sold in 2011. The white gold version sold in 2016, but the one I wanted to talk about is from 2011. This was in Sotheby's in 2011 in September, or no, October, excuse me, of 2011, and that was in the Important Watches Hong Kong auction, and that one was actually a pink gold version of this piece. So I think there's varying case metals of this specific reference that you can probably find, and I think they all give a really different sort of feel to the specific reference. So I have the yellow gold version with a little bit of oxidation. I think that's quite nice. And just a really beautiful dress watch that I've enjoyed wearing. It's funny, it's been very difficult to take this piece off of my wrist, I have to admit that. And I think that just happens when you sort of fall in love with a piece. So, like I said, this watch is available on our store if you'd like to check it out. There are some more pictures there, and we'll obviously have an article for this specific video, so you can check that out as well. But without sort of droning on more, I'll flip perspective so we can close out the video. I hope you enjoyed looking at this Vacheron Constantin 4963 from 1953. As I said, this is an extremely significant piece for the history of my sort of watch collecting journey, but also life on the wrist, because we've covered a range of topics on Vacheron Constantin, but also on the Toledo, which is, like I said, a very significant part of life on the wrist. So like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to check out this watch, it is available on our store. There'll be a link in the description to our store if you'd like to check it out. There are also some more pictures there you can see of this watch if you'd like to see more close-ups on this really beautiful piece. And then we also have an article that corresponds with this video, so you can head over to the editorial section of lifeonthewrist.com, and you'll be able to find the article there. If you wouldn't mind letting me know what you think about this watch, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments section below what you think about this really beautiful 4963. I'd love to hear your thoughts on sort of the oxidation of the right side of the case. I think it's extremely beautiful, makes this watch just a little bit more unique. If you are new to Life on the Wrist, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you like these types of videos. We cover everything from vintage to modern, new watch releases to up-close videos on vintage watches. So if you like those types of videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn the bell notification on so you're the first person who's able to watch these videos. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button for us, it really does help us out with our YouTube analytics. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time.